guests who have been on the camera over the years, your mission is really quite personal, and I want to flash forward, or flash back, I should say, back to when you were growing up, because looking at you today, Karen, you seem to be an extraordinarily healthy human being. You have this nice healthy glow to your skin. Looks like you don't have a health care in the world, but you were once known as, and I quote, the human garbage disposal. And so when I hear those three words in succession, I'm thinking, well, that's probably not somebody that was eating the healthiest of diet. And you're saying that was you. So back in the day, what was going on with you?
Well, I know. You know, it didn't even faze me to put that on my website because I was so used to my best girlfriend saying that about me. You know, oh, give it here and she'll eat it, you know? And I was never, first I will say, I never really had a weight problem. I mean, you know, I always went up and down, but never really had a big weight problem. But, and we're not here to talk about metabolism, but I gotta tell you, I wasn't scared to eat anything. And I think that that was probably had something to do with my diagnosis later in 2008. And also, just that every single fall, winter, I would get this awful, I'm going to say flu, but I don't think it was the flu, this awful cold, and I was just in bed for 7 to 10 days. I'm not even kidding you. Every single year, it was just like clockwork. I knew it was coming. And of course, the seasonal allergies, and then little aches here and there. But as you get older, you just think, it's part of, you know, growing up or getting older. And when I changed my diet, all that went away. So it's just really been quite a journey, and you know, we can kind of get into whatever you'd like, actually.
So I used to get sick with the same thing all the time as well, and I knew that like that second I felt it, I could identify it. I was like, oh no, I know where this is going. Was it the same for you?
Oh, totally. It was like a Mack truck was just down the road about to just really run into you. And you remember when that would happen? You think, okay, I have to do everything that I need to do right now before I get sick. I need to hurry up and get the laundry done, get the dishes done, go do all these little things because I know that I'm going to be in bed for 7 to 10 days really, really sick. It was inevitable.
Oh, 100%. And I used to load up on orange juice or emergency packets, which never really managed to do a daggone thing for me. But nonetheless, that was kind of what I would do each and every time. Do a bit of good. Did you have outside of making sure all of your chores were done, did you have a routine like that?
I took those pain meds also. Remember, like, come on. I just looked at what I bought stock in the company.
Oh my goodness. Oh man. So, aside from being the human garbage disposal, what was your diet like? Was it the standard American diet, lots of high fat food, junk food, fast food?
Well, I'll tell you. So, I am a kid of the late 70s, early mid-80s, and both of my parents worked. My mom worked part-time, but still, you know, she was never. My mom never got my little pieces, but she was not a cook at all. So my brother and I, we didn't grow up around, you know, these elaborate dinners and great chef-prepared or even well-cooked meals growing up. We just ate what was put in front of us, and then we wanted to go out and play or be with our friends or whatever. So I never equated food with health or food with, you know, sickness, illness. So, for example, I think that people my age-ish probably grew up around the same things, like Campbell's, you know, canned soups, Velveeta, grilled cheese. Yum. I would still eat one today if I felt that it was okay. My dad and I, one of my best memories actually, is on Sunday afternoons when my dad and I would watch either golf or football. And not that I even liked those sports, but I just liked like hanging out with him. And we had this little 13-inch black and white TV in the kitchen, and he would make one of two things: either fried bologna sandwiches or fried Spam sandwiches. Then we would top it with melted Velveeta, and God knows what that really is. put it on white bread and
Yeah,
either
it's
put
so bad.
ketchup or mustard on it. I mean, just such great memories, you know? So, and anytime I ever had anything green, it was probably overcooked broccoli with some kind of, you know, melted cheese or something on it. So, not the best diet growing up.
No, it wouldn't say so. I will say though, I was also a fan of fried bologna sandwiches back in the day. My grandma used to make those for my brother and I from time to time, and I remember getting so excited when she would take the little red, I guess, casing off of the trim of the bologna. You had to take that off before you ate it, and then we would eat that with the white bread, Wonder Bread, or Mary Jane bread, you know, just as white as it could possibly be, with American cheese, not Velveeta. We didn't go gourmet like the Dugan House, but but it was a nice slice of American cheese. The cheaper the better. And when I took a bite of it, it seemed like absolute heaven at the time. But now, I mean, what, I wouldn't use the term heaven whatsoever. What term would you use?
I'm maybe just like one dimensional.
One dimensional. Yeah, I can see that. I can see that. Yeah,
Well,
one dimensional.
fat and mushy, salty, you know, just all those words that you really don't want associated with the food that you're eating. But the memories are there, you know. It's like you wouldn't get rid of those memories for anything. You know, that's part of who you are, you know, and those, you know, now we know. But I'm thankful that I went through all that with my dad, you know.
No question about it, because it made you the person that you are today. I think that one of the, and this is kind of a sidebar, but I think that one of the things that we start to realize as we get healthier on this journey of ours is that our relationships aren't necessarily with those foods all of the time. I think that it's with those memories you were just talking about, right? So the bologna sandwiches to you represent, and spam sandwiches represent happy times with your dad. You could have just as happy of a time, you know, with carrots and hummus. Come to think of it, wouldn't you say?
Oh, 100%. Yeah, I mean, I would rather not equate bad foods with those memories, but it's the memories that stick stronger than the foods themselves. But still, they are kind of, you know, they are tied together. It's some, you know, by some kind of way. But you're absolutely right, and I think that that's something that hopefully, with the evolution and strength behind a plant-based diet that we're seeing more and more, hopefully those new memories are being made with people. Really, the backings of good food, good nutrition, and those healthy relationships.
Let's talk about good nutrition. I pulled up the ingredients from Velveeta cheese, just for those of you who are curious. And if they could fit more dairy into this, I would be surprised. From the package, whey, milk protein concentrate, modified food starch, canola oil, sodium citrate, and then it contains 2% or less of the following. This is typically where the scariest stuff is buried. Gelatin, salt, calcium phosphate, sodium phosphate, lactic acid, sorbic acid as a preservative. Here we go, more dairy. Milk fat, cheese culture, paprika extract, and annatto for color. Enzymes, natural flavor. Never really say what that natural flavor is, but it's in there. Vitamin A and palmitate. So I'm not quite sure what a lot of that stuff is, but there's your Velveeta cheese.
That's right. Picture of health right there.
I'm telling you. So let's take a turn here. So how would you consider, you know, over the years as you grew into being an adult, you said you never really struggled with your weight, and we will get into your cancer diagnosis momentarily, but before then, and your annual fitness, were there any other health struggles that you were facing?
I really didn't have any. I mean, I was, well, to say I was a pretty healthy person, I mean, that's up for debate now because I would get sick most years and then I had these allergies and everything else. And then eventually cancer, times 2, by the way. So one thing that I have realized over the years, and I find myself saying more and more often to people, especially people coming to classes, you know, good health is not the absence of symptoms. You know, I think that we just learn to live with these symptoms, these little aches and sneezes and limitations little by little. And, you know, unless we're in the hospital or we're taking medication for something, and we think that, everything's fine, everything's status quo, let's go, and that's just not true.
Absolutely. It's funny, like, feeling sick kind of becomes the norm, and it was a former colleague of mine by the name of Eric Gray, who in his own weight loss journey explained it best. He said, when I started to feel really good, I went to the doctor and I was talking about how great I was feeling. Something must be wrong. I'm feeling this good. And he said the doctor said to him, he said, no, Eric, you feel normal. And so normal is feeling good. Like, we are inherently supposed to feel good, but we normalize feeling sick because of diet, our lifestyle, stress. There's so many reasons that compound or manufacture this unhealthy life so many of us lead.
If you see somebody who's like, oh, I feel great, I've changed my diet, I've done this, or I'm getting more sleep, and I'm, doing all these, wonderful lifestyle changes, and you think, well, that shouldn't, to your point, that shouldn't be weird. That's normal.
Yeah,
right? So many ill people who all feel about the same, and they're all making the same, I don't want to say excuses, because that just indicates that, they do know, right?
Yep.
I think that a lot of people who don't know, and until they're educated, then they do know. But it's just when I see people come to the shop and they change their, community education here, or do PCRM, or anywhere, and they just feel fantastic. They're just so surprised, and I'm just not. That's to them, totally to them.
Yeah, but it's funny though, the way that the majority of people are looking at it. And I think that once you kind of cross over into the realm where you and I are right now, it's hard to unsee things. But I'll give you a prime example of one that really stuck with me recently. I was out to dinner with a group of people, and salad came with it, and this was after they had crushed appetizers like fried mozzarella sticks, and something probably not getting them off on the healthiest foot. And then this person begins to eat salad, and they're like, well, I'm not going to finish my salad because then I won't have room for this entree that they ordered, which was as meaty and as cheesy as it possibly could be. And I'm laughing to myself, knowing that that's really not the place to have the conversation with the person about that. But what stuck with me, Karen, was that I was like, well, maybe if you ate that salad, you wouldn't want then to crush that big, meat, heavy, very heavy entree that you just ordered that's got close to 1,000 calories and God only knows how many grams of fat. And so, you start to look at things a little bit differently, and I kind of wonder if this person looked at things the same way, if then they wouldn't have that annual illness that you were talking about. They wouldn't have those stomach aches and all of the other things that they typically would complain about, Are there instances like that throughout your day where you're just like, yep, the old me would have been 100% on track with what that person just said, but now I can see things on a completely different level?
Well, yes. So interestingly enough, here, and I'm sitting broadcasting today with you from the Center for Plant-Based Living in St. Louis. We do a lot of things, classes, virtual and stuff, all that kind of stuff. But another thing that we also did really just kind of started to organically happen once the pandemic started to kind of shift downwards, which is good. So we have dinner parties here, and last night we had a birthday party here, and 70th birthday party. This woman and her husband have been coming in for several months, and she has lost weight. She feels great. Her husband, is no longer on metformin. Prostate levels back down to where they should be. Looking great, feeling great. So, and I believe that he's 70 or somewhere around there. They look fantastic. Well, so they brought in family and friends to her birthday party last night. None of them are plant-based. And I'm happy to say that they all ate a lot of their food, was very complimentary. It was a great night. But there was one woman here who, she's like, yeah, this is great food. I totally appreciate it. I understand. I get it. But I can always have a steak. And I was like, okay, you know, like that's fine. I mean, it hurts me a little bit because when you say you get it, you don't. It's hard to like have a leg on either side of the fence, and you know, and like, but 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 it's still okay because she appreciated the food and she had 100% plant-based, animal-free meal, and I hope that maybe she woke up this morning feeling a little bit different in a good way. You know, we are all just little, you know, little instances along the way to helping people. You know, I'm not going to do something overnight. You're not going to do something overnight to help anybody. You know, maybe we will, maybe we won't. Chances are we won't. Little messages along the way that help people get to a place where they understand how they can help themselves through diet and nutrition.
It takes lots of those little messages for somebody to make one big change, I think, you know, so that could be message number one to that person, right? And who knows what else is coming down the pipe that may continue them on a healthier journey, right? So, you know, how often do you go out and buy something because you see or you hear or you read that advertisement for the first time?
Right.
Not very often, right? You got to see that ad 4, 5, 6 times before you're like, oh, I need that in my life. And so hopefully there will be more advertisements for the person to continue down this path. But I want to talk more about your story, and I want to ask you about the year 2010. You say that would be a transformative year for you would be an understatement. How would you sum up that year in one sentence?
Man, that was a tough year.
Yeah, I bet. So in 2008, let's first talk about your father, who just, you know, spoke glowingly of, you know, watching golf, watching football with that little TV, making him spam or bologna sandwiches. His health took a turn for the worse that year. What happened?
Well, so, and I think that this is important, and I don't really talk about it hardly at all. My dad had prostate cancer, and by the time he was diagnosed, his levels exceeded 1,700. His PSA level was in excess of 1,700. And usually you hear anywhere between 0 and 4, screening at the 5, maybe 6, looking out into surgery or some kind of therapy. And my dad, which is, it's a little weird because most of his friends were doctors and lawyers. He was a salesman. I don't really know how that happened. But when he needed to see a doctor professionally, he had white coat syndrome. And which just means he did not want to go see them professionally. Don't tell me anything's wrong. So my dad passed away at the age of 60, but the physicians, oncologist said that he had he was diagnosed at 55, he probably had cancer for 5 years already. So prostate cancer, for some who may not know, is called a lazy cancer because it moves very slowly. And as long as you monitor it, you can kind of decide with your medical team if you really need some kind of medical intervention or what. But when you are at 1,700, it's, you know, we're past the point of no return. So they gave him 5 more years, and he took 4.5 of them and walked me down the aisle. So that's good. But so I think New Year's is also just a little plug for go get yourself checked. You know, this is such a slow, lazy cancer that, you know, it's not like if you do have prostate cancer or any kind of elevated prostate level, it doesn't mean you're gonna, you know, big death sentence by any stretch, especially if you're in single digits. But, you know, it is, you know, just kind of watch it. So that's my 2 cents on that. But he passed away in 2008, and then 10 weeks after he passed away, I was diagnosed. Now, I did not have prostate cancer, that's a whole different podcast. I had malignant melanoma, and listen, sun worshiper, but still I'm landmark here in St. Louis, so it's not like I'm always in the center and at the beach. But, you know, again, I'm a child of the late 70s, early 80s, and, you know, baby oil and in the sun 1 or 2 weeks in the summer for summer vacation when you get in the the car and head down to the nearest beach, I didn't do myself any favors. And I knew that I was going to do myself. If my mom knew that it was really going to cause something, then she wouldn't have let me do it. So we live and learn. However, I have done a I've done a lot of research on skin cancer and diet. So now what I'm doing is I'm not completely scared of the sun. It is actually, vitamin D levels especially. I want to get it. And then it's nice to have just a little bit of color. It makes you feel good. I just don't spend hours and hours outside. And I eat well to help or to hopefully bolster my immune system enough so that I don't get cancer again.
You're talking about two very different forms of cancer, but nonetheless, when you come in just 10 weeks after your father's passing to receive that diagnosis, that must have been some kind of a gut punch.
Well, I'll tell you, I didn't grow up in a family who even had, I didn't know anyone who passed away or even had cancer in my family. I didn't know, none of my friends had cancer. I wasn't familiar with it, So when you hear that somebody as close to you as a parent has cancer, and by the way, there's no recovering from it, and then you watch them pass away, they literally passed away in my brother's arms and my arms and my mom's arms, we were all holding him as he passed away, and then to turn around and get a same sort of diagnosis, and you're thinking, what is happening here? So it really, it was the impetus, that really got me, and it was the 1-2 punch that I needed, because just losing my dad wouldn't have brought me here. I would have just gone through the mourning process and tried to heal. But having cancer myself, I got to a point where, pardon me, I was pissed. Yeah, I thought, no, I am not ready. There's more work to be done. So let's figure it out.
So what was that, that moment for you where the light bulb went off, when things started to click, like, wow, I have a whole lot more control over this than I ever previously knew. Do you remember, was there one single moment where that light switch was flipped and you had that big epiphany?
I think, okay, so here's the thing. So when I went in for treatment and I had the tumor removed, and I was healing from that, I think it was a culmination of a lot of things, Chuck, because I was healing from surgery. My husband and I were in the middle of a full home renovation that we were doing ourselves, by the way, and I mean, like, took everything down to the studs. I was trying to be a good daughter to my mom, a good sister to my brother, a good wife to my husband. I was working full time in a medical practice, by the way, and I couldn't get away from my life. So what I think what I did is I kind of found a way to fight through and break through, and what I mean by that is I just wanted to educate myself. I thought, okay, I'm not finished here. This is not how the story ends. So I started, and I'm not even kidding, I started Googling, Dr. Google, and just putting in, cancer prevention and disease prevention and all these things. And I started doing diet also, even though I wasn't really still was not making the connection between food and health. And so I'm Googling and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. I don't know what I'm just grabbing at things. And what kept generating, the results that kept generating were the benefits of the vegan diet. And I was like, come on. Like, here I am again, middle of the country, 2008, nobody said plant-based then, they said vegan, and this is a very conservative town, so back then, when I heard somebody heard the word vegan, it was like, I've learned a lot since, and no disrespect to me, but I thought, no, there's no way. There's no way I could give up. I'm not going to do that. My chicken breasts, my frozen foods that I need to eat because they're wrapped in the microwave. And so I kept reading, and then in this medical practice, I was the marketing director. I made friends with a few doctors, and I said, listen, I'm not quite sure how to read these medical studies. I mean, you have to learn how to do that. And I said, can you guys teach me how to do this? So in some off time, these physicians taught me how to read these medical scripts. So then I had those tools, and it was easy for me to just zip through all these medical journals, all these papers, all these studies. And hand to God, Chuck, all I was looking for was the paper that said, no, that's bunk. Plants aren't going to save you. Keep looking, and listen, I'm still looking for that paper. It doesn't exist. So I thought, fine. Science says, okay. And I knew that I didn't want to do this forever. But I was still reaching at things, and I wanted to find the one thing that I could hang on to. So in one fell swoop, I took all the in-oil products out of my kitchen, made my husband real happy, and went to the grocery store and put all the things that I was supposed to put in my cart. Went to the produce section, all the colors. And I was also, at this point, I was looking at PCRM. That was actually one of the first websites that I really dug into. So I was eating the rainbow, right? I was putting the green things in, and the orange things in, and the purple things in, and the blues, all the colors in the cart. I had no idea what was eating. No idea. Nothing had labels on it. Things I hadn't eaten before in my life, or that I didn't think that I'd eaten. So then I go over to the bean aisle. Oh, beans are good. It has this thing called fiber. Okay, does it have enough protein in it, right? So throwing all that in the cart. Canned tomatoes were okay, I guess. Then I went over to the bakery, and now I will say that I had graduated from the white bread to the brown bread, which means nothing, I know. But to me, I felt okay about that. Well, wasn't good enough this time. I had to go get what I was calling the hippie loaf. The doorstop, the 5-pound thing, right? Heaved that into the cart. And I got home, and I put it all out on the, this makeshift counter, because again, you're a rehabby, I really want the kitchen. And I thought, well, now what do I do? I didn't know what to do. Nothing had microwavable instructions, there wasn't too many ingredients. So I started Googling plant-based 101 recipes or whatever, and just started assembling food. I was no cook. I was just assembling food. So that's really how the whole thing got started. And I thought that perhaps I would only read just enough studies to get to that point, to assemble food. But something hooked on to me, and I couldn't stop reading the studies, and it was the science that really brought me all the way to present day.
Fascinating stuff once you get kind of down that rabbit hole with health journals. There is just so much literature there, and you're right. It's like you want to keep, digging and looking for that one study that you said, well, plants aren't the answer. Except, when those studies are reported, that evidence is reported. I think reported because then you kind of go in and you kind of debunk it, right? I think with the vast majority of the studies out there that point to plants being the healthiest food out there, that's independent research, right? It's not exactly backed by the corn council or anything like that, as a lot of the beef and the dairy and other studies point to, butter and fat, have a lot of industry funding for that. I think when you get into the real independent studies, which is like this analogy of meat and potatoes of where the true health literature lies, it all points to this healthier way of eating a plant-based diet. So that's really cool. And I know that eventually in your journey also, Karen, you decided to become a Food for Life instructor as well. You really kind of ingrained yourself in a position to be culture.
I have, yeah, and I'm really proud of that. I mean, truly, the work that you guys do is just, you guys have set the bar so high, and I've been so proud to be a member for so long. So in 2000, 2008, yeah, so 2008, okay, picture this, St. Louis, 2008, and Ted and Karen are redoing their house, and this was the schedule. Get up in the morning, we go to our separate gyms, work out, come home, take showers, get dressed, go to corporate America, come home, put on gross clothes, and then just start pulling down walls and, doing all kinds of gross stuff. Now, that was during this time of healing, okay? Trying to heal this big incision in my arm, still dealing with the loss of my dad, all of these things, okay? Now, also, I've always been the one to make dinner, and I mean like make dinner, like heat up something. Well, in this new diet that I was trying, that word you understand, of assembling food, Tim and I would work on the house after work, and then eat dinner around 10:30 at night, which is when our news comes on, and then go to bed late. So that was my schedule for a very long time. And so when I would make dinner, I was just assembling food because I didn't really have time to do much research on how to cook. When was I going to cook? When was I going to learn to cook, And now, in what I do now, these are all obstacles that I help people with. So I'm like, oh, been there, done that, let's talk about it. So I am sitting, my husband, Tim, God love him, he's sitting on this couch, and he's full of plaster dust, and I'm full of plaster dust, and we just need something to eat before we go to bed. And I'm throwing food on a plate, and he's sitting down, and I give him this food, and he looks up at me with these big puppy dog eyes, and I mean, tension is so high, not, it's just, there's just a lot going on. And he looks at me, and I said, Karen, what, please, what? He goes, Karen, I understand what you're doing with this food. It makes a lot of sense. I understand it, but you're going to kill us both. And it was just kind of like that release, that ugly cry, and I said, I know, I'm sorry, I know it sucks, I'm so sorry, I'm so bad at this, I don't know what I'm doing, I really don't know if this is going to help, I don't know if this is going to help me not get cancer again, I don't know, I don't know anything right now, and he's like, oh, we're gonna be fine, don't worry about it, and with that, hot sauce out of everything, and we leave it. So, you're gone, right? So without me even knowing it, the next day, he looks for a vegan cooking class in St. Louis. I didn't even think about taking a class, because guess what? I was not going to do this forever, and again, no time. So he finds this cooking class, it's at Whole Foods, and we get in, the last two people to get in, full class, the instructor was awesome, we're still friends. She's slinging plants left and right. We're all having a good time. She's using like 5 or 6 ingredients for everything, all these meals. We're tasting it. I'm like, yeah, that's okay. Like, I think I can maybe do this for a little while longer. She calls me after class, asked me to be her assistant because she could see how excited I was. And I thought, wow, wow. So just 2 weeks, two classes a month. We would go to these 2 Whole Foods in town, and I was her pack mule, and I would bring all of the ingredients and the recipes and do the dishes and just learn through her. Fast forward, 2011, she moves out of town because her husband has transferred something. Whole Foods says to me, oh, well, would you like to teach? And I said, no, I'm sorry, I've never taught anybody anything, nor do I want to. And they said, okay, well, here's the paperwork. And I thought, you guys don't understand. So I get home, Tim's like, oh my gosh, you have to do this. I said, hi, have we met? I'm not going to teach anyone anything. He said, okay, let's fill it out. So that's how STL Veg Girl was born. And I can remember, oh my God, Chuck, after my first class, I still like get sweaty from it because I was so nervous. If people were coming in, basically they were spending their time and money with me to learn something. And it made me, we're talking about imposter syndrome to the nth degree. It was after that class, I went back to the PCRM website because I remember something about training. And I dug around a little bit, and it was the Food for Life program. I read all the way through it, and I thought, wow, that is really something, because they taught me, you know what it's all about, but helping us as instructors, helping us communicate the health benefits between a plant-based diet and health, for diabetes, for cancer, for wellness, for children, all these things. And I thought, wow, I don't know if I want to build a business around this, but this seems like really comprehensive stuff, but this is a big deal. Well, back in the day, this is all before it went virtual, you have to try out for this. This is not, here's my money, I'll be on the next plane. You have to be legit into this. So you had to be on a plant-based diet for health reasons for at least 2 years. I had a 2.5 hour phone call with somebody, I don't even know who it was. You had to do a video of yourself cooking one of the PCRM recipes. It was challenging. And then 3 letters of recommendation from people who are not friends or family or coworkers, and then like some kind of other application. But it was a big deal. I spent a lot of time on this, and then I was accepted. And then you have to get there. You know, you have to pay your way, you have to do all the things.